These two teams played several years ago, about a decade ago, in the best game I've ever been to live. Now, it's 10 years removed, but they haven't played since. Do you sense either program is that has been a pitch, that has been a discussion this week, or is that game just great college football history and doesn't translate to tomorrow?
Well, I don't think it translates for either program except for the fan bases and the alumni, right? And both coaching staffs have talked about this week trying to block out the noise. Well, the noise is that this game is some sort of rematch, to what, and listen, I would consider it one of the best games I ever saw as well, but you can't recreate it. You can't recreate the stars that were on that field. Think about this. USC that night played the only college football game in history where two Heisman Trophy winners suited up for the same team as Heisman Trophy winners. That's pretty epic. By the way, Vince Young was on the other side. Many consider, including me, one of the best to ever lace him up in the college game. That was an epic game, and that for this matchup tomorrow and Saturday is just noise for Texas and USC, because USC, they've got goals and aspirations for themselves. So with Clay Helton as their coach, and Texas, they're trying to just right the ship. They're trying to get back to where they're relevant in a Big 12 title conversation or a playoff conversation, much less trying to harken back to their last national championship in 2005.
Is USC great, or is Sam Darnold great and everybody else is okay? How much is Darnold and how much is USC start?
Well, I don't think you can have one without the other, right? I mean, when you've got a great quarterback, you're clearly going to be a very good football team. Now, I think that USC is very good around Sam Darnold. One of the things I was most impressed with last week against Stanford is the way that they pushed Stanford around at the line of scrimmage. Colin, you and I talked about this off the air this week in the building. I haven't seen USC do that in quite some time. They have a football foundation for the first time in maybe a decade, and that foundation is line play. They were brilliant on the offensive line. 2 100-yard rushers, 307 yards on the ground against Stanford. I mean, Stanford doesn't give up that type of yardage because they're a very tough program. David Shaw is a very good coach, and that defense, I think, will be proven out to be one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 over the course of the season. So this team around Sam Darnold, they're pretty great. They just happen to have what I believe is the best quarterback in college football at the helm.
Yeah, I'm hearing all this stuff from college football media and the internet that Lamar Jackson's not getting the love he deserves. And my takeaway is he's getting plenty of love. He won the Heisman. But Sam Darnold should be talked about more because I think he's better. I think it's a football powerhouse. I think he can win the national championship. And whereas Lamar Jackson, it's mostly like, he can win the Heisman. And I don't care about the Heisman. You're a Heisman guy, right? You love the Heisman.
Wait. Why? How do you not care about the Heisman? I can't get over this. I'm sorry. Why do you not care about the Heisman?
First of all, it's a bunch of old guys in a room. I don't think it translates to anything other. I think, first of all, it's almost always quarterbacks that win or running backs in running programs. Ndamukong Suh finished fourth. I'm out. I don't care. I don't think it's the best player. By the way, I'm outside of maybe best picture, best actor, best actress. I'm not a big awards guy. I don't think it. What does it mean? What does the Heisman mean to me?
I'll tell you what it should mean. There is only one individual accomplishment in the sport, pro or college, that is greater than winning the Heisman Trophy in college football. That's becoming a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Think about it. You can win a Super Bowl, and some people will forget about that. Was he on that team? Oh, yeah, I guess he was a Super Bowl champion. You will never, ever go without being said or being introduced as a Heisman Trophy winner. Think about it, Colin. That the only thing that you can do in the sport greater than winning the Heisman Trophy is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Those are the only two things that will lead every sentence that you ever get involved in the rest of your life. It is one of the most important individual accomplishments in the sport, period.
Okay, when I look at this weekend's games, there'll be an upset or two. There's been a lot of discussion about Ohio State and Michigan, good teams with average quarterbacks. Over the years, we're getting a lot of West Coast quarterbacks in the NFL and a lot of southern and warm weather quarterbacks in the NFL. Could I make the blanket statement that even Brady from Michigan's a Cali kid and Breeze from Purdue's a Texas kid, is that the Midwest footprint right now just doesn't produce the quality of quarterbacks of the West or the South, and that you have to win in the Big Ten differently. In Michigan and Ohio State, this is kind of what Big Ten football is. You win in the lines and coaching, you don't win at quarterback.
Well, listen, I think California has created and produced a lot of great quarterbacks. I think right now the South, when it just comes to the numbers, sheer numbers, it doesn't matter what position you're talking about in this sport. They're producing more talented athletes at every position than any other region in the country. The numbers bear that out. The draft bears that out every single spring. I don't think that there is some sort of discrepancy, which means that Ohio State and Michigan have to win a certain way. Because, listen, Alabama is smack dab in the middle of the South. They're the preeminent program in our sport. They're the preeminent program in their division and in their conference, and yet they haven't necessarily had that dynamic quarterback play, and it's more due to the way that they like to win versus the caliber of quarterback that they could potentially bring in. Now, I think Hurts is dynamic, and we'll see how he develops over the course of this year in his second year, but I think it's more about the style with which these teams and these coaches go about winning. And on the West Coast, you're going to have quarterbacks do quarterback things, and they're going to be leaned on a little bit more than they would be in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten, stylistically, is just a more conservative conference on the field from a schematic perspective. I think that's more in lines of what you're talking about, rather than just some deficiency when it comes to the recruiting base in those regions.
And finally, your almost upset pick of the week. Now, last week you did very well. You had Nebraska. You had Nebraska almost beating Oregon. Gutty call by you. Very gutty. What is your almost upset of the week, Joel Klatt?
Okay, so I was trying to decide between three, but ultimately I'm going to land on just one. So I'm going to run down the two that I did not take, but I think that the underdogs in these games, let's just say I think that they would cover. Air Force is getting 24 at Michigan. Just based on the style that both of them play, that could be one of the shortest games of the season. 24 is a large margin. If Michigan wins 28-7, that's a blowout in that style of game, and you cover if you're taking the Air Force Academy. So I like that one. San Diego State at home is getting 9.5 against Stanford. Stanford, we just saw last Saturday, gave up 307 rushing yards to USC. Guess who the leading rusher is in the country? His name is Rashad Penny. He's the running back from San Diego State. They know how to run the football. Remember, they had Donnell Pumphrey for the last couple of years. So San Diego State, that's a sneaky one. But, Colin, my almost upset of the week, Tennessee at Florida. They're getting 5. I might like the Vols outright, but I'm going to take a step back and just say they might get them. Tennessee might get the Gators in the swamp. I'm just saying.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.